I am Philip VanDusen. I'm here with Lee Jackson in the #1 inaugural Brand Muse interview series with branding experts. And so what Brand Muse, the interview series is going to be, is that we're basically going to talk to branding experts and design experts about their professional journeys and how they use branding, marketing, and design to help build their businesses and also help people build their businesses. So other people's businesses. Anyway, that said, let's jump right into it. And so welcome, Lee. Thank you so much for joining me and being the guinea pig on the very first Brand Muse interview.
Well, it's all downhill from here.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Alrighty. Well, I am a web developer at heart, so I love to build WordPress themes. And because of that, I built an entire business around it called Angled Crown. So we work with designers all around the world. They create beautiful designs, and we create beautiful WordPress themes from those designs. So that's kind of our bread and our butter business. I also run the Agency Trailblazer Podcast, which is a podcast for agency owners, again, all around the world. And we're talking about marketing, but with a heavy bias towards creating agencies that we love to work in that don't stress us out. Right now, my computer is stressing me out, so I'd love a whole community just around that right now. And we also have a community that accommodates that podcast, which is the Agency Trailblazer community, where we have courses in there and just help and guidance for people running an agency, because agency life can get a little bit lonely, even if you've got a team of 20. It can be lonely at the top.
Absolutely.
So that's a bit about me. I also like the color pink and blue.
And you're working those. And turquoise, obviously, kind of like the Tiffany's,
all over the
blue.
Yeah. Love it, yeah.
So we came in contact with each other through Chris Ducker's mastermind community. We attended a conference that he had, his first Upreneur Summit conference in London, and that's where Lee and I met. And then we connected after that, and he introduced me to his Trailblazer, Agency Trailblazer podcast, which I highly recommend anybody who hasn't listened to that. It's amazing, covers a lot of different subjects, and great for both people who are building their own brands as well as creative professionals who make up a lot of my audience, to get tips on how to drive their agency, their business, and work through content marketing and just a slew of topics. It's a really amazing podcast. So definitely check that out.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about, as I said, my audience is made up of probably half creative professionals and half people who are actually entrepreneurs or small businesses, startups who are building their own brands. And a lot of people are curious how people start off their careers. So how did you get into this business, and what did that early arc of your career web look like?
It's a really, really long story, so shall I try and give you the potted version?
Yeah. Give me the cliff notes.
I started building websites back in 1998 as a kid who was in drama school, but did no drama and sat in the library teaching myself to code. So that's pretty much how I got into it, and built a few websites and actually managed to earn a bit of a living from the age of 17 through to the age of 19 on my own, which was really cool until everybody figured out that they could probably build their own websites using Front Page. Do you remember that? Was it Front Page by Microsoft?
Yeah.
And all of that? And I had no business sense whatsoever. I was just making it up as I went along. So I went and got into IT, of all things, and worked my way through IT for many years to the IT manager, but the entire time kept developing websites on the side because it was just my love. I just loved doing it. And I would somehow try and get to be the guy who built the website for whatever company I worked for as well. So that's all I ever did. And long story short, eventually I bumped into a design agency who needed some help in developing some software for the events industry. And I was showing them what I could do with WordPress. And they were just like, dude, this is amazing. We want you to come and be a part of our agency. So I handed in my notice at my job, and I became a third-party shareholder of that business. And we launched a new product based on WordPress. And the rest is history. That grew and grew and grew. That's now a company in its own right. And I also then launched about 5 years ago, Angled Crown, where I get to do what I did then, which was become the digital expert for other design agencies. I basically went into that design agency that was a design to print agency and added the entire digital wing. So I loved doing that, and that's what I now do as a living.
And where's Angled Crown located?
Right here in Wellingborough. So here is Angled Crown, and we've got offices, nice little meeting room, and a kitchenette over there,
Cool.
and a beautiful view of a car park. I really wish we could find something a bit nice. I'd love a barn or something like that in the middle of the countryside, but we're not there yet.
And what's the scale of your agency, basically, in general?
Scale. So we like to be nice and small. I used my old agency where we had 15 employees at one point, and it was so freaking stressful. What we've tried to do is create more of a lifestyle business, which affords me the ability to be able to go and spend time over in Florida. So you'll be aware I was in Florida for a couple of months, still doing some work, but also doing some exploring and doing some family time. So there's actually 5 of us in total that are full time, and then all the rest of the team are actually contractors. Many of these people who still contract with us are people that used to work with me 10 years ago, but many have become freelancers because they too want to be wherever they want to be and work with lots of different people on different projects. We found it was really difficult to have a big team of people and pay them to sit there waiting in between projects. Whereas if we can have contractors, they get paid more for every job anyway, but also we're not paying them to sit around doing nothing, which was really, really stressful. So we're a team of 5 full-time, and then everyone else around the world, we have contractors that we use in different countries, here in the UK, Croatia, India, and the US of A as well. So quite a wide net.
Yeah, that's great. And that's actually a really good kind of synopsis of something I've been talking about a lot in my videos, which is how the agency paradigm and the working model of large agencies has really been changing over the last maybe 5 or 8 years. And even, Sir Martin Sorrell, resigns from WPP, the head of WPP, largest, kind of a family of agencies in the world. Yeah. And they had their absolute worst year ever since the downturn of the .com crash. And I think that they're seeing like a huge downturn in their business as well. And I think it's very much because of what you're talking about, which is agencies, rather than holding on to large groups of people and then having to hire as they get new clients or fire when they lose some, which is this constant ever churning cycle, as you know, which is, and when you talk about agency stress, I mean, that really stresses out the people who work in agencies to know that they're always walking on eggshells. And by instituting this kind of more flexible model, you are giving, people the lifestyle and the security that they, kind of relish in terms of not feeling as stressed out about it. And you as an agency owner also kind of get rid of some of that stress because you can scale up and down as needed for a project, but not do it as needed and not have to hire or fire and, go through that rigmarole, which is admin.
You're kind of spreading out the stress a little bit because the contractors have to look after their own businesses, but at the same time, we're helping and empower them because all of the contractors that we work with have been lifelong friends, essentially. We've all known each other for at least 10 years now. We've been in this business a long time. So we're always helping and supporting each other, passing business over when there's things that are not directly within our company, but we can always pass them on to the contractors as well. But you may or may not be aware, I am a massive fan of Walt Disney, and one of the things that stressed him out the most, he writes in diaries, he shares whenever he's having conversations, it's all the way through any biography that you read, and one of the biggest stresses he ever had was paying the wages at the end of every single month, because they were often like right down to the line. Disney, huge company, would often have zero in the bank very often.
Wow. Yeah. And so how
and that was his biggest stress.
The free, the partners, I'm going to call them, rather than contractors or freelancers for you, sure. Your partners, how have they, they've also gone from this model of working for a large agency and then started to work for themselves and, build a network of partners that they have to flex with. What's your impression of how they have evolved into that kind of model of working and how it's working for them? Because I know a lot of people who watch my channel also are trying to figure out, do I work for a company in-house? Do I work for an agency? Do I freelance? Do I build my own agency? How do you feel like they have evolved into that or feeling about that new change?
Well, when people were working with us, I was very much part of the employment or the recruitment process with them when they came to work with us in the first place. So they were already very like-minded, very ambitious, etc. So they took I guess, taken to it like a duck to water. People have been able to go out, find business without any issue. Obviously, we support them in that. I started off as a freelancer a long time ago, so I've got enough good advice for anyone who wants to come and chat to me about how to make a living through things like Upwork and people per hour just to get started. But all of them have found their own good niches. One of them actually has formed their own agency in India as well, which is phenomenal. So he's actually got a team of people that still work for him as well, and we still pass work to his agency because obviously the price difference in that is still very cost effective for us to use him, even though he's now an agency in his own right. So it's been phenomenal to see the success. Obviously, a few of the people who left our original business have then gone on to work with other agencies. Therefore, we can't work with them. We can't partner with them. I like that word, partner. We can't partner with them anymore because they're working for other companies, etc. And some people have decided to just get out of the space altogether. But the people who have stayed on as partners have been very, very successul. Like I said, especially the chap who's now got his own mini agency.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say mini agency because his agency is just as amazing as ours. But you know what I mean? He's gone on from being a partner, a one-man band, to having a team. I think he's got a team of 4 now people working for him full-time in India.
Cool. And so let me back up just a little bit. When you were, I think the story of you, being in, theater and then coding in the library is a really interesting transition. I mean, I was trained as a fine artist, as a painter. My master's is in painting, and I came to design kind of through the apparel industry, backdoor.
And you look like one with that mustache, just saying,
there you go.
You just need a little beret or something.
Yeah.
And then
yeah. So, you can't, it takes a while to get away from it. So that transition, and a lot of people are, there's a lot of conversation about passion, finding your passion, and people struggle with that, I think, early in their careers, is like, what is the right path for me? And there are so many different paths now. When you had to make that transition from, thinking you were going to be in theater to doing something that was more IT based, what were the kind of difficulties or doubts, or what kind of hurdles did you overcome in that you could share with others that might make their transition easier?
Sure. Well, I made the transition to IT in general just because I needed to pay the mortgage. And I actually hated it. I was very good at IT, so I was very good at supporting computers, but utterly hated doing it. And I did that for about six years or so, or maybe longer. Which was why I tried to intersperse throughout that entire process me being able to do some sort of web development in those companies, or I did web development on the side for other people, because that was my passion, but I couldn't work out how to monetize it. I'd tried as a teenager and it all kind of fallen apart, and I'd had to get a job. So I thought I was trapped forever. With regards to the drama, and I still have a passion for drama, but I realized that I could take all the lessons I'd learned from that and apply that to being able to create a personal brand for what I now do, and to be able to do things like public speaking, being on video, or running a podcast, because all of those skills are so freaking helpful with regards to confidence, being able to talk, to being able to carry yourself, and all of those sorts of things, as well as being able to act confident when you're actually bricking it in front of a whole load of people. So that was very handy. So I'm not sure I've really answered your question.
No, but you've created an amazing segue to my next topic, which is which is when it comes to, another thing that I talk a lot about on my videos is personal brand building and brand building in general. So as you moved into your agency life, and you are creating a great deal of content, how did you step into that? Like, what was your first step? How did it feel? What were there successes or failures in that? How did you grow those different touch points that you have going? What was your kind of content journey? When did that start? And what did it look like?
Well, the original content journey was years ago in the old agency, creating blog posts, and absolutely nothing happened as a result. Hardly any views. It was always discouraging, creating blogs. I mean, I would try and think of any subject and create a blog. What the moment it changed was about 4 or 5 years ago, when I realized that I've been doing nothing for years but consuming podcasts. The minute podcasts were a thing, I've been consuming podcasts, and I've been learning an awful lot, and I recognized that there is power in building a personal brand, in putting yourself out there, in creating an audience, in listening to that audience, and being able to answer the questions that audience has. If you can educate many, many people, then from that, obviously, there is going to be some return at some point. Eventually with the podcast, we get business through the podcast, which is awesome. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I was thinking I really need to start this podcast, but carried on procrastinating for a little while longer until eventually it came to a point where I saw a course by John Lee Dumas on how to get your podcast live, and it was a free course. It was complete no-brainer. It sounded absolutely easy, and I just realized that I needed to do it, but I still procrastinated for another 6 months until a girl called Sarah Moore, who is a really close friend of mine, who's an amazing social media guru and video guru. She said to me, Lee, you need to announce to the world that you are going to make the podcast live. You need to put a countdown on social media, tell everyone, make a stink about it, and that will make you go live. And it's exactly what we did. We told everyone that in 15 days' time, the podcast was going live. I had nothing, and that meant I now had 15 days to do something, and good was better than perfect. And I put something out there. I followed all the information that I'd had from John Lee Dumas, and got the podcast live. And the first couple of podcasts, if you go back and listen to them, are kind of funny because I'm a bit stiff and I'm asking the same questions over and over again of my different guests and thinking that's what I'm meant to do. And then kind of episode 20 onwards, I kind of just chill out and we start having a bit of a laugh, and it just becomes a general conversation with no planned agenda. It becomes a natural conversation, and they are far more effective, and it's got grown from strength to strength. But I think for me, it was the accountability of saying, all right, stake in the ground. Hey, everyone, I'm going to do this. And it's going to be something that puts me out there as opposed to a faceless blog post. What I have since learned, since launching the podcast, is that blogging is actually also really good too, as long as you're doing two things. You're listening to people and you're working out what they want to find out about. So what information do they need? You can find that in your inbox if you're struggling for a source, whatever clients have asked you. That's a great blog post. But the other aspect of blogging that everyone's missing is the whole marketing aspect as well. Mm-hmm. Creating a blog doesn't necessarily mean people are going to come. So I can market my blog posts, etc., through social media, through SEO, and also through the videos that I do now on YouTube, which have themes that link back to blog posts on my site.
What you were talking about, which is something I talk about a lot as well, which is done is better than perfect. And, that's the whole combating perfectionism aspect of, kind of creative people, I think, in general.
Try telling that to a designer.
Right. See, I know exactly.
I can see how uncomfortable you are.
Yeah, I know.
You shifted in your chair.
Yeah, well, I've been a lifelong perfectionist, and it's something I battle with all the time, because you end up spending 90% of your time on the last 10% of what you're producing. And, it's not efficient. And sometimes it's better to just put something out into the world, because then you're going to learn, you're going to grow. And it's all about just committing, which I think your story on that was awesome, which is, you were noodling and waiting around for 6 months, and it just took that little kick in the butt to say, okay, I'm going to commit, I'm going to set a date, and then you have to hit your own deadline. Yeah. And setting deadlines for yourself is also another aspect of content creation that has been really helpful for me, by saying, every 2 weeks I put out a newsletter, every week I put out a new video, and I have been consistent in hitting those deadlines and religious about it, just like it was a client deadline. And that's been really helpful for me, because it's so easy. Like when I was just initially, like you, just blogging and no one was coming to my blog, yeah. You do 3 weeks, you don't come up with an idea for a month. And then, you realize that you're not consistent. No one can expect when to get something from you. And it's just very haphazard. And so I think that's an awesome point. And just starting, which is, that's another one of my mantras, which is just start, period.
Well, what's happened as a result as well is, I have been consistent. I've showed up every single week now without fail for 2.5 years or so. We're we're into the hundreds of episodes now, because we've done tons of little extra kind of bonus mini episodes as well, which is awesome. And to complement what we've done, we opened a Facebook community back in 2015. We've now got 1,500 or so agency owners, designers, freelancers inside of that community now, which are, and they're all communicating, having a great time. We all met, well, not all of us, but a load of us met up at WordCamp just last week, which was phenomenal. And we've created this tribe and this feeling of togetherness, community, and family. And obviously by me continuing to show it with the podcast, that means that people know, like, and trust me. And that's the important thing, isn't it? That they can trust me and they can expect from me that I am going to continue to deliver something for them and for the community on a weekly basis at 12 o'clock every single Monday. It goes live without fail. It's all automated. Obviously, we do it in advance, but we make sure we're never late.
And another thing you were talking about, which I'd love you to kind of expand on, is that, feeding one, content marketing arm into another and how they cross-pollinate with each other and cross-promote each other and repurposing of content. I listened to a great podcast. People should look it up on Agency Trailblazer, your podcast about content repurposing.
That was
10x
with Amy
content.
Woods.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was a great episode. And she's amazing. She blew my head away in ways of kind of repurposing content.
Her podcast as well.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. I did. I went and I listened to it. So talk a little bit about how that, kind of cross-posting, cross-pollination, repurposing started for you.
Sure. Well, it became, I was struggling. I knew I needed to get into WordPress. I mean, you are killing it in WordPress. I have started a year ago, and it's a slow process for me. I know that, and I'm going to continue to commit to it because I want to grow a WordPress a YouTube audience. Did I say WordPress? I probably did.
I was like, I don't do WordPress.
YouTube. Yeah, you're like killing it. You're killing it at YouTube. You are killing it in YouTube. No, I'm killing it in WordPress. Damn it! Stop.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so you're killing it in YouTube. I want to do so too. So I've been slowly building up the audience. But I was struggling at first to work out what subjects I needed to do. So this is a complete accident. And I thought, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll look at the blogs I've written in the past or the blogs that I've got planned, and I'll break them out into lots of different points. And I'll do lots of mini videos on each little section because some blogs might have 5 points. So one point is a 3-minute video. So that's what I did. And we've now got a content plan as long as my arm and for the next few months of small sound bites that we can do of content. And then obviously we can then cross-link back to the blog that we created on that. And also, vice versa, we can now put mixed media on our blogs because when we've got a blog and I've done a video about something, I can then pop that video in at that right section, which has got me explaining whatever it is, because some people like to have it explained to. And we've made vlogging, as it were, or creating a video very, very easy for ourselves because we just list everything as a question. I'll go and stand in front of that green screen that you can see behind me. Larissa will read the question out to me just to prompt me again, and then I'll answer it as if I'm having a conversation with Larissa, but looking at the camera. And then, bam, SD card goes in, take out the background, put some pretty picture in the back, do all the audio levels, and then upload it to YouTube. So we've got a great process. We haven't, though, I say this, we haven't uploaded any videos for the last couple of months just because we've had a few things going on at home, which I've had to give my resources to, which is cool. But we're totally going to get our heads back in that game. But yeah, the cross-pollination of content was a complete fluky accident based on the fact that I'd created content in the past. And then I suddenly realized that was my content schedule because I knew these were questions that people already had anyway.
Yeah. And you started in one place, the blog, and then you kind of built, and you have all these different arms now, right? So that's that's the other part of it. Is you just
podcast.
People get overwhelmed because they're like, he's got a web thing, he's got a membership community, he's got an agency, he's got a podcast, he's and they say I could never do that, and it paralyzes them, and they don't realize that everyone starts off with just one thing. You
start off with one thing, and I could never have done that 3 years ago. It's taken. It's a long process to do it. Some people seem to be able to fast track it. I don't know how. It is a long process, but if you don't start now, then you'll never get to the 3-year point anyway, where you can look back and say, holy guacamole, look what's happened. And we're only at the beginning. There is so much more that we can be doing. Yeah. I want to help as many agencies as I possibly can. We've got loads of exciting plans, but I'm one of those people. A few years ago, in a past agency, things were growing too fast. So if you grow too fast, it's hard to manage all the work and the money and everything that's going on. It can be really stressful. So I'm a massive believer in just growing slow. And I always roll my eyes whenever I see these people on my Facebook advertisements telling me that they've got this amazing solution to make you loads of money within a week, or you could be turning over 10K a week or 60K or whatever it is, and all this rubbish. Because I'm not interested in that fast growth. I'm interested in growing something slowly, investing time in it so that I can learn and get wiser along the journey. So if you're going to start something, don't look to start something that's going to explode in 6 months and make you a multi-zillionaire, because that ain't going to happen unless you're really clever, and I'm jealous, and I'll borrow some money, please. But otherwise, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And it's better that it takes time because it's so much freaking fun.
Well, and there's
the
patience part of it too, which is, a lot of people start, a blog or start a podcast or start a YouTube channel, and they get, 5, 10, 100 subscribers. They get up to 500, and they think, oh my God, it's going so slowly, and they get frustrated and they stop. And the thing that, I'm always preaching is that content development is a long game, right? It's about building an audience, and it's not just the whole audience shows up at Carnegie Hall and then they walk out after the performance. You want them to stay. You want them to become a community. And so you've done that by building this Facebook community on top of it with Agency Trailblazer, which is great. When you talked a little bit about, how content development has now been acting as, a new business funnel for you, what does that look like? Why are people coming to you from looking at your content? And then when they do come to you, what are the types of people who are coming to you, and what is their approach? Has it helped you in terms of your new business acquisition and actually closing new business?
It has. Two things. Number one, it's not necessarily the listeners who become my clients. It's actually the people that the listeners recommend me to, because I am now front and center in mind as the WordPress specialist. I'm very often saying on the podcast, I've already said it in this interview, etc., what it is I do. So that's always front and center in people's mind, so that when somebody knows a designer or a design agency, my name comes to their mind, and it's actually me that I get introduced to. That's the main thing. Can you repeat the question, because I totally had a second point?
When new business was coming to you through your content, what was their approach to you? I mean, who were the people coming? You answered that part of it, but when they did call you up, what did they say? I heard your podcast.
And then the second point was this, so that when those people then do come to me, I've got this email that I send to everybody saying, it's really great to meet you, and here, if you want to get to know a bit about us before you engage in a telephone call, then here is our podcast, and we'll link to the podcast page with pictures of us all over it and all of the episodes. Here's our YouTube channel. Here is our latest video you might want to check out. I might put like a relevant video to whatever it is that, so again, they can see me on video chatting. And here is our blog as well. And then I'll end the email with, and here is our magic link for you to book a 30-minute chat for us to talk about your needs. So again, that breaks down barriers, because I'm actually giving people the opportunity to check out who the heck this guy is that's been randomly introduced to. Go and check him out. He seems safe. He seems a bit of a nutter, a bit forgetful sometimes. I think I kind of like him because he's normal. And then that breaks down all those barriers. They can see as well, credibility-wise, even if they don't even listen to any of it or read it, they can see I am putting a lot of content out, and it's all relevant to what they're doing. So instantly credibility booster. They're hitting that magic button to have a 30-minute conversation with me. And I've already elevated myself. The credibility is there. They're not expecting me to be cheap either, So all of that really, really helps to create, a good solid brand. And it kind of weeds out. I hate that phrase, but it puts off people who are time wasting, or who don't really have the money, or who don't really understand what it is they need. Because that kind of category of people, I can't really help, because I don't have the bandwidth to handhold people. I need to work with people who know where they want to go. So again, that's really, really helped.
And I think that technique that you said of, when you get a new business lead, essentially sending out that email that has all of your different touch points and credibility points in there is a brilliant idea. And I think also what's really smart about that is that people consume content in different ways. Some people like podcasts when they're driving. Some people like videos on their phone. Some people like to download PDFs and read lead magnet and white paper type of things. There's so many different ways of consuming content and information now and you are spreading out how you're doing that from your Facebook community to your video to your podcast, and giving everybody the option of, you want to hear what Lee Jackson knows, then you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can read it, you can, and I think that's really, really smart. That's a great suggestion for others, I think.
Totally.
When I also talk a lot about trend on my channel, and my trend videos tend to be very popular. So one of the things I like to ask people is, when the industry is always changing, right? Branding is always changing. The agency model is changing. Design is always changing. When you think of what's happening right now, or what you see as things that are, starting to gain momentum, or you're starting to see them more in terms of, it could be in, WordPress theme development, it could be in, content marketing, it could be in the designers that you work with. What are kind of the trends or themes that you're seeing out there that might be something that people should pay attention to? I mean, that's a hard question. This is the hardest question.
It is a very hard question. I mean, I can sound all designery and just say that, there's a lot of script fonts going on at the moment, isn't there? They're absolutely everywhere.
Don't use Papyrus, right? Something like that.
And it's kind of bugging me now. It's like everyone's just gone for the hand-painted brush scripts everywhere. Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've got some books in here that's got it all over. One thing that's been there's two things that have been talked about a lot. First of all is bots. I got no time for it, so I can't give you anything on that, but I know a lot of people are talking about bots. I just think it's one of those shiny new objects, but I could be proven wrong. The other thing, though, that is being talked about, which people are misunderstanding, is called funnels. And it's designing a good funnel and taking your client down a funnel. And I think people have gotten confused. I did a podcast with a guy called Mike Killen. I definitely recommend you listen to that, where he talks about funnels. And really, he's just peeling away all of the preconceptions that funnels is a thing. Funnels is actually something that's existed since the beginning of time, when someone sold ice to Eskimos. And it's really just a very good, well thought out sales process. And a funnel for your website is your website designed well, your website designed for how you want people to interact with it, and a website designed to help you achieve the results you need to get from it, i.e. somebody filling in an inquiry form, or somebody taking on a support contract with you, or somebody ordering a brand evolution, or whatever it is. That's what funnel design is. So there are massive talks about funnels. There's the Big Click Funnel software. There's all of these clever automation tools. And I think that's going nowhere fast. I think that's going to continue to grow. But what I'm hoping is that the message from people like Mike Killen will start to come through as well, where people won't be going off in the shiny new object syndrome trying to find the latest and greatest funnel builder, but that people will get the best funnel builder in town, which is this notepad and pen, and start planning out their websites or their applications or whatever it is they're doing on paper, writing down the process of what channel, what funnel they want to send particular people down, and how they want to interact with those people, because it's a phenomenally great, obviously, for the sales process with your website, but it's also great for you as a business, because as you start to write things down like these processes, it means that you can actually start to plan better for onboarding your clients and giving your clients a really good experience. And there is a tool I want to tell you about in a bit that's going to blow your mind, but I'm going to keep that.
Awesome. I'll just keep that to the end. Everyone has to watch to the end,
because that kind of matches what we're just talking about right now.
And what you're talking about is, a customer journey. And you can either take someone on a customer journey, a sales journey, in individual emails that come out on a timed way, like what people talk about in email funnels. And there's also a customer journey, which is just a thought process that you take someone through as they read through your website. And I think that your point is really well taken. And I see it a lot with the clients that I work with, is that a lot of businesses are very me focused, right? Especially creative professionals, very me focused. Like, I did this is my work. These are the companies that I work with, me. And the one thing that people don't realize is when someone comes to a website, they're coming there out of self-interest. They're coming to solve a problem that they have. And unless you say from the very outset, I know what your problem is, it's this, I can empathize because, of this reason, I have these things that can solve it. This is why you need to choose me. I'm better. I'm different. And if you have any barriers to doing it, I know what those barriers are, and I'm going to knock them away. And you take them through this process. Is there an aspect of that you use in your own website or in your own, communication with new clients? Do you take them through some sort of a process like that?
We do nowadays, which kind of means I'm going to have to tell you about this tool as well, really.
Okay.
It matches really well. Okay,
all right.
So
go for it.
All right, so I'll tell you about that in a second. But yeah, so we are great at doing it for everybody else because they're paying for our time to design functional websites and to make sure that it does what it needs to do and help them understand what they need it to do and map it all out. So we're amazing at doing it. The problem is that we're always doing that for lots of other people. It's really hard to get time to do it for yourself, isn't it? Which is nice because a lot of our business is all grown through a referral rather than us having to spend too much time marketing. And that referral is a result, obviously, of the content that we're putting out there, the online brand that we've created and my online persona. So what therefore happens, though, is that our onboarding hasn't necessarily been great in the past. And it's only been in the last 2 years where we've really started to pin down our onboarding process. We kind of gotten lazy because clients had just come up to us, ask us for some work. We send a quote, they say yes, we get started, and then it bites us in the ass because we realize we've not asked the right questions. We've not established what it is they need necessarily. We need more budget off them. Everything just starts to get a bit crappy. And I'm sure loads of people around the world will recognize that feeling. So over the last couple of years, we've now started doing a proper onboarding process. And in the past, we've had to use, I know it sounds terrible, but we've had to use Word documents and a shared drive. Well, I say Word documents, it's actually Google documents. We've got a shared drive on Google, and we've got all of our processes mapped out, and we send this email at this point, and we do this, that, and the other, and then we'd use Asana or Basecamp. I mean, I flip between the two of those products all the time. It's ridiculous. And we have our planned templated checklist of, all right, have you now done this? All right, we've sent that email. We need to gather this information next. So that's the next task. So go grab that document and send them that email. So that's what we've been working on over the last 2 years, which has massively improved the onboarding process, but it's always been fiddly and annoying. And I've always been looking for that ideal CRM that would help me out as a creative agency. And I believe we found it. It's a CRM called Dubsado. It's a couple of years old, and it still feels new. It still feels beta. There are definitely things in there that will frustrate you. I'm not going to lie, because it doesn't yet do everything, but it does a lot of things really well, which includes allowing you to create custom workflows in a really no-brainer way. And in those workflows, that means that you can send essentially, today, actually, me and Larissa were pulling in a range of our documents into Dubsado this morning. And the way we've worked it out is once we send a proposal, the client reads the proposal, they press a button, it presents them the contract. They sign the contract, they press a button, it presents them the invoice. Wow. They pay the invoice depending on what schedule we've set, either 50-50, 25-25, or full. And then what that does is trigger the questionnaire depending on what products they've purchased to gather the information that they need. If they don't fill that in after 2 days, it triggers an email that sends them an email saying, hey, we really need this information to get started.
Lee. You're using a bot.
Yeah, I know we're using a bot, but I don't like the word bots. No,
I know.
That's automation. I'm just teasing. I'm talking about automation. Bots that you go on Facebook and they're like, hi, how can I help you? Yeah. And then people think that people are going to have conversations with bots. No way. So anyway, so there's an amazing workflow process. And it's so if you check it out, it's dubsado.com. I'm not on any commission. I'm just really happy to use it and really happy to share. But the other thing, mate, on like personal branding and putting yourself out there, the team at Dubsado are doing the exact same thing. If you have a look at their channel, they are putting themselves out there. They're giving access to all areas. They're showing their office, their team. They're having conversations. They're vlogging, having a laugh. They're also sharing really useful information and also have a podcast as well. So they're ticking all of those boxes, really putting themselves out there. And you're attracted, aren't you, to like-minded people? So if you are if you're a business and you're not putting yourself out there, you could actually be be doing your business a disservice. So get yourself out there, because people are attracted to people. People want to do business with people. So yeah, so that was kind of a tangent. But yeah, with Dubsado, it's really allowed us to take all of those manual processes and put them in a lovely workflow with a bot that we're now going to call Henry.
Oh, all right. That's great. Automation is great. And I think that that's something that a lot of designers need.
Though, is it? It's automation. No, yeah, you're
it's
right.
Automation. Yeah.
Winding me up. I
get and it's a customer journey in a way after you've closed. It's like the closing customer journey.
Oh, yeah. Well, the cool thing about that, though, is you can remind yourself, because one thing we don't do well, I think most businesses will admit to this, is having a conversation once every couple of months with your client, even if they're not working with you, saying, hey, how's it going? What are you up to? And again, that's the sorts of things that you can start to automate, give yourself reminders, set yourself tasks in advance. All of these are really important for a customer journey. And I'll hold my hand up. I am still rubbish at that.
And you're right. And that's one of the things that I noticed with the best account people that I worked with at the large global agencies that I worked with, is that, when you have a big account, the best thing to do is to keep in constant contact with them, because that, unless you don't hear about what's going on in their company or have those ideas about how you could help them. And that's, exactly. And if you can,
and then they start to have those conversations with other
somebody
people,
else.
Well, you've lost the account.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that you talk about, which I think is great, and it's part of your community, your Facebook community, is how to help design and web agency owners love their agency world again, because they're stressed out, and you give them practical advice on how to undo bad decisions and to create an agency that they love and want to keep going. What are some of what's some of that advice? I mean, what kind of struggles did you have in your agency that you are imparting that information to the people in your community now?
Sure. I actually did a whole talk on this recently at WordCamp as well, as this message that I do. So a few years ago, thinking back to kind of stories of agency life, a few years ago, I was up at 3 a.m. crying, working on an iPhone app. And this was early days where it was still not the best documentation, and you had to wait for Apple to approve the app, and that took weeks. Anyway, I'd been working on 3 weeks on this app, and eventually Apple approved it. I burst into tears. It was 3 a.m. I hadn't spent any time with my family for at least 3 weeks. I was stressed out. I'd lost all my hair by now, like I'm completely bald. And I was just like, what am I doing? The worst thing was that I was charging 500 quid for this. That's 500 pounds. Sorry for anyone not in the UK. We say quid. 500 pounds for this, which is absolutely not going to pay the bills for an agency that had we had a London office, we had a Bedford office, and we had all these staff to pay. And I, as the director or one of the directors of this business, had spent 3 weeks with another member of staff building an app and charging 500 pounds for it. Yeah. Okay, that was my moment where I realized that we were doing something terribly wrong, yeah. And we needed to change this because life was too stressful. I wasn't getting time with the family. Why the hell was I putting myself through this? And we didn't realize it at the time, but it happened. We ended up doing what I always term now as the agency reset, where we all got together and just said, this is ridiculous. What the hell are we doing? This is not what we signed up for. We didn't sign up for all of this stress. We didn't sign up to work on projects where we don't really understand we understand what we're doing, but it's just really hard and long-winded and unprofitable. So we went right back to the very beginning. I said, well, first of all, why on earth are we doing this? And we started talking about times where we'd had lots of good fun. Oh, do you remember that project that we worked on? That was amazing. And as an agency, we realized, we wanted to make life easier for event organizers. This is the old agency that I'm talking about. We wanted to make life easier for event organizers because they were all having problems with the software that they were using. And we realized that we should be focusing on helping event organizers create amazing brands and also help them with the software, and then just specialize in those two things. They were our strengths rather than us trying to do things that weren't our strengths just because somebody was willing to give us a bit of money. So really that was the process of, first of all, starting off with our why, working out what our mission, what our passion was, moving then on to, well, what are our strengths? What can we do really, really well that matches with that mission? So what we could do really well was branding, design, and also development of some real killer software, which is still going to this day and has powered thousands of sites all around the world. But then, so what are our strengths? And then based on that, we already had our target market. So we just needed to work out what were the main problems that were being solved by those strengths, again, that matched our mission and that matched our why. And then that essentially formed the entire messaging of that business, and also the direction. We dropped clients that were completely off the charts. We had IT clients, we had clients who were doing real estate. We had no business having all of these random clients. So, we dropped all of those clients and we really, really focused. So when I then launched Angled Crown 5 years ago, I went through again, unconsciously, I didn't realize it was the agency reset at the time, but I went through the exact same process of sitting down saying, what's my why? And the story came up of that time where I was crying in the middle of the night, and I thought, I want to create something that is going to help design agencies not have that stress in their life. And I know I can't. 5 years ago, I couldn't tackle it all. So I'm going to pick one thing that I'm really good at, and that's building WordPress themes, because one of the biggest issues in agency life is when you've done your design and then you're trying to get freelancers or third parties involved to then build the website. Loads of things go wrong. It goes over budget. People disappear on you. Freelancers aren't very good. I'm not saying all freelancers, but you might get a freelancer who's not very good. And there's all these crises that are always going on, and things are late and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to create an agency that just took all of that hassle off of the design agency, and then we would do it for them, and we would take all that stress on. But thankfully, we're not stressed doing it, because actually we do it every day. We have processes and we've got a good team to do it. So that would take all of that stress. And then that mission has then continued to feed what I do, launching the podcast, because I realized I could kind of spread my net wider. How else can I help you not be a stressed out agency owner? Right. And then that then fed into eventually creating the community. I can only help so many people on a one-on-one relationship. We can only have so many clients, but with a membership site that allows us to kind of input content there that's going to be really, really helpful. And it's also going to fund us to be able to do more, and we're going to be able to help many, many people. So that's kind of a very long answer to any question you ask me. Yeah. This is a pattern, mate. I talk a lot.
The Facebook community you have, and you may not realize it, but you become the mentor to a lot of agency people. And correct. We mentor people, but we also have mentors. And you and I came in contact with each other through Chris Tucker's mastermind community. I also have individual mentors who I have developed and either worked with as managers of mine in my career. Are there mentors in your life? Talk about one of the mentors in your life who kind of has, helped you along, or helped you kind of get over hurdles that may have been tough. Because I'm always recommending that people, nurture a mentor relationship somewhere in their lives. So talk about that a little bit.
I've been lucky to have a few. I mean, the very first mentor in life was my dad. He passed away 4 years ago now, or is it 4 or 5 years ago now? But he was, although he didn't know much about business, he was always very much about, he would always ask the important question, which was why. Why are you doing this when you're really upset, and what could you be doing that you would really love to do? So dad was always that. So first mentor was always dad. And then I've been lucky when I launched the podcast, because I had no mentors for a few years. I was having to suck it and see and work out, do it. And if it didn't work, learn from it and feel the pain, and then do it differently next time. So that's how I was operating until I launched the podcast. And then I met a whole range of people. So Kim Doyle, WP Chick, I think she's changing the name of her podcast now, but there was Kim Doyle. She was a great mentor to me. Also Sarah Moore mentored me. And then until kind of more recently now, we have a bit of a mastermind group of all these people and a few extras that we've met along the way through different Facebook groups, where we all have very similar types of businesses or very similar missions, and we all help each other out. And we've got a private space where we're brutally honest. So I hope Facebook never gets hacked, because there is some hilarious stuff that I've shared in there.
And this is a Facebook community. Your mastermind is a private Facebook
so it's
group.
One that we've built up over time of very select people, and to help each other out, which has been absolutely phenomenal. But then, like you mentioned, Chris Tucker, I then realized that this is great. This is like a peer support network, which is great, and they can still you can still mentor peers, etc. But I kind of realized that I also needed to start to reach out to someone who was in a space where I want to be, which is why I reached out to Chris Ducker, and I'm now in his round table for this year of 2018, because I want to learn from someone who is way ahead and is already doing things I want to do. He's already got the pay for community. He's already traveling the world speaking. He's already doing public events. I want to do events as well for agency owners. So he's doing all of these things that I really want to do. So I want to align myself with him and get his advice. And again, recognize that it's not going to be overnight. It's probably going to take a few years, but hopefully I can speed up that process by having good advice from someone who's been there, done that, and wore the t-shirt.
So on the heels of that, as you talk about, your mentors and having helped you, is there any kind of personal manifesto, personal mantra that you try to live by?
I've kind of got two. Can I share two?
Yeah,
because you said
No,
first of all,
I said manifesto and mantra, so you can do both.
Oh yeah, manifesto. Okay, well, the first thing I always say is like you just got to love and be excited about what you're doing. So absolutely love what you do. So be in love with your business, and if you're not in love with your business, either fix that or drop the business and do something else. So I'm all about doing what you love. The other thing though that I talk about all the time, it's a big thing for me. I've struggled on and off with anxiety and depression for many years, and one of those is laying in bed in the middle of the night worrying about things that I can't necessarily control. So the advice that I tell myself, it's this thing I have to keep telling myself over and over again, and I've been teaching my daughter it as she's gotten older, is don't worry about the future. Don't worry about things that you can't control. Worry about things when they happen. Yeah. So when we have in our mind, oh no, I've got this client meeting next week and they might say this really mean thing to me and it's all going to be awful. And all I've done is create fiction in my mind of something that I think is going to happen. And I've put my body through the exact same emotions as if it's happened, and it's drained me and it's pushed me down and it's made my spirits low. And then when I go to that meeting, it turns out to be the best freaking meeting ever, and they sign another check because they want more work. And I'm like, what the hell was I doing to myself? Right. So the biggest thing I always tell my daughter, and I have to keep telling myself the minute anxiety and worry starts to creep in, is worry about it when it happens. So if someone is going to be mean to me, worry about it the second they start being mean to you and deal with it then. Right. Otherwise, don't make up fiction. Worry is fiction as far as I'm concerned. You're worrying about the what ifs. So it's much easier said than done. But if you can compartmentalize that and just repeat it to yourself the minute that anxiety starts to hit, it really, really helps. I actually very often kind of name it out loud and then just make this kind of physical hand as if I grabbed it now, and then kind of drop it off to the side because it's not happened. It's over there. I'm going to keep going, and that actually physical action for me, at least, because I'm quite visual, really, really helps.
Yeah, and that's actually a technique. There, your daughter must be channeling a guy named Eckhart Tolle, who wrote a book called The Power of Now, which is for me, one of the most influential books in my life. And for very much the same reason, when I was working with a large, corporation and was a VP of design, there came a period of time where I was up at 4:00 in the morning having panic attacks and unable to sleep about, meetings or deadlines or deliverables that I had. And I read this book, and it's very much about exactly what you're talking about. One of the things he talks about is, recognizing those anxious thoughts and naming them so you can, like you said, take them and set them aside. Another is, how it's about being present. It's about living in the now, so you're not living in a projection. And many times that projection, like you said, is not what it's going to be. So you end up, internalizing, feeling something that actually never ends up happening. So I think that's really great. It's an amazing book. Anyone who's watching who hasn't read it, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, really powerful. And that leads me to, are there any, books or blogs or, movies or some sort of, aspect of where you've either internalized a deep learning or been inspired by that you'd want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, there are a couple of books, to be honest. The first one is The 4-Hour Workweek, and I know people roll their eyes, and I don't actually think it's the best book in the world, and a lot of it is a whole load of garbage, I think, to be honest. But the premise of creating a lifestyle for yourself that allows you to do the things you want to now, rather than waiting until you're 60 or 70 and potentially not even well enough to do the things that you would love to do one day. My dad died age 62. He never actually got to even retire or do anything that he wanted to, and that was a massive eye-opener, along with that book at the same time, to me, to say, actually, I'm going to go spend 2 months in Florida now in my 30s with my family and live some of my retirement out now, like mini retirements, and enjoy life. So although a lot of the stuff in the book I don't agree with regards to residual income and all that sort of stuff, the premise of creating memories, the premise of creating those mini retirements throughout your life whilst you've got your health, had a massive impact on me. Obviously, coupled with the death of my dad, it was like, whoa, life is too short, and I ain't going to wait until my 60s or 70s before I get to enjoy doing things. Working the 9 to 5, or in business, working the 7 a.m. till midnight every day and beyond is not worth it. So I need to create a business and a lifestyle that allows me to do these mini retirements and that. And then the other book is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's an older book, but very much I read that book and then did the podcast. It's a case of it's all about that fiction, isn't it? You feel the fear of decisions you're about to make. I'm about to make a decision. I'm going to feel the fear. All right, I'm recognizing that I am bricking it right now about this decision, but I'm going to do whatever it is, and I will deal with whatever the consequences are, because something will happen. I'm not going to worry about fear of missing out if I did any other thing. I'm just going to make this decision. I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to feel the fear, but I'm going to do whatever that thing is, and deal with its consequences, because good things will come out of it anyway, whatever it is. It will be a journey. It will be a learning experience. And that's really helped me to just make decisions like that and to just go for it, even if they're the scariest thing ever. And it's another thing that I tell my daughter all the time: feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. And she said to me the other day when I went to the dentist for a root canal, she went, "Dad, feel the fear and do it anyway." I was like,
the dentist, you got to do it.
Doesn't count for dentists.
So Lee, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, for being the inaugural Brand Muse interviewee. And so if people want to get in touch with Lee Jackson and bask in your glow, how do they do that?
Okay, well, if you're interested in engaging with us with regards to design and development, then that's angledcrown.com. If you want to listen to my beautiful voice interviewing awesome people all around the world, then head on over to Agency Trailblazer.com. They are the two places you can find me. Otherwise, it's Lee Jackson Dev, which is my personal Twitter. I kind of live on there as well. And we have a Facebook group, which is advertised all over Agency Trailblazer anyway. So you can go ahead and hit us up in there and come and join that community as well.
Awesome.
All righty.
Well, Lee, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Okay.